So good morning. Today I have your lecture on histamine, serotonin, drugs used in obesity, herbal alkaloids, and other drugs used in migraine. So you might be wondering why these drugs are put together. Parang they don't make sense in a way. But if you're going to look at our reference, which is Katsu, you will see that this is actually the section on blood, inflammation, and other disorders related to the blood. And you will see also that they are discussed in the context of autopoids. So if you will remember, autopoids are actually mediators that bind to several types of receptors, but they do not fulfill the criteria of neurotransmitters. But they may have other the effects are also similar, but they are actually more widespread than neurotransmitters because they act not only on neurons, but they also act, for example, in smooth muscles and other organs such as the inflammatory cells. So you will remember maybe in other lectures before, like your eicosanoids, like in 8 NSAIDs, and also yung mga antihypertensives like angiotensin and bradykinin. So it's actually also autopoids, which serve as mediators to produce other various effects in the body. So we'll be discussing here kasi primarily actually histamine and serotonin, which are autopoids. Now, herbal alkaloids actually not autopoids in themselves, but they also possess properties that can bind to similar types of receptors. So that's why these drugs are here. Why are we discussing here also drugs used in obesity? Because there are some drugs, we know that serotonin binds to different subtypes of serotonin receptors, and different receptor subtypes, when serotonin binds to them, also produce various effects. A specific receptor subtype, which is serotonin 2C, was one of the drugs that was historically used to manage obesity by reducing appetite. So, however, because of the safety issues associated with them, many of them have been withdrawn from the market and have been replaced by safer and more effective drugs used in managing obesity. Now, why are we also mentioning here drugs that are used in migraine? Again, because specific receptor subtypes, specifically 1B and 1T subtypes of serotonin receptors, are associated with when they are stimulated or when they are agonized by serotonin, they can actually cause vasoconstriction, which relieves the pain caused by migraine headaches. So, just to give you a bit of context on why these drugs are discussed together in one lecture. So, baka kasi medyo malito kayo kasi bakit ba ito included in this section. So, medyo widespread siya, hindi siya parang system, but more on the different tissues, organs, which contain receptors. And of course, we know that the drugs that are available can either stimulate these receptors or antagonize these receptors. Kaya i-discuss natin sila dito. Okay? So yung mga first few slides in the presentation actually just gave a brief history on the discovery of certain mediators, particularly for histamine and serotonin. So just, hindi naman ito kasama sa exam, but at least just for us to know the history of the substances. For example, for histamine, it was first synthesized in the early 1900s, and they were noted to have various effects on muscle, blood pressure, they mediate anaphylactic action, so they are linked to allergic and inflammatory responses. Currently, the known agonists and antagonists to the histamine receptors have various uses. Some of these drugs you may be familiar with, such as your antihistamines, like your diphenhydramine and chlorpheniramine in your for allergic actions. And then, I suppose you already had your lecture before in GI drugs for histamine 2 receptor blockers, such as cimetidine and nitidine, which were developed to reduce gastric acid secretion and address acid peptic diseases. It actually revolutionized treatment for ulcers because historically the treatment for ulcers were just antacids, which would only neutralize gastric acid but did not reduce gastric acid secretion. So we'll review these principles later on. Similarly for serotonin, so it was in the 1940s where serotonin was isolated, and not just actually in the blood, but also in other areas of the body, such as in the enteric nervous system. So, and even in the central nervous system. So, the effects of serotonin are widespread, primarily because of the presence of receptors in various organs. So, you will encounter, for example, in the next sections of your lectures, like CNS acting drugs, we will be discussing your antidepressant agents, like your inhibitors, antidepressants, SSRIs, which mediate the action, which parang either, well, all of these drugs that I mentioned here are primarily function by prolonging the lifespan of serotonin. Prolonging the lifespan or the time that the serotonin is in the synapse by preventing its reuptake. Because the termination of action of serotonin is primarily by reuptake back into the presynaptic neuron. And then we have your ergot alkaloids, which are actually they were initially discovered in the 17th century, Middle Ages in the 17th century, yung mga farmers that were storing rye and other grains na na-spoil sila, tapos nag-grow yung isang types of fungi, which is the Claviceps purpurea. So, and then when people eat these spoiled grains, nag-experience sila na various degrees of vasoconstriction in the body, seizures, and for pregnant patients, some of them nagkaroon ng preterm labor, where nagkaroon sila na miscarriage. So, and it was noted that the ergot alkaloids had strong vasoconstricting effects, and many of these was mediated by binding to several serotonin receptors. So, eventually, these alkaloids that were derived from the fungi that was growing on these spoiled grains, eventually na-develop sila into drugs that were used. Kaya lang, currently rin, may mga na-discover that some of the drugs had psychedelic effects, and then may mga safety issues din that were involved. So, many drugs, like for example, the ergotamine, ergonovine that were historically used in the management of postpartum bleeding, napalitan na rin sila ngayon itong mga safer carrier drugs. So, many of the drugs that we mentioned here will be for historical purposes and academic purposes. Pero especially for certain drugs like yung mga ginagamit natin for Parkinson's disease and hyperlipidemia, may mga mga drugs that are also being used today in replacement of the drugs that we mentioned. Okay, so these are just some of the agonists and antagonists that will be discussed later on. Pero we'll mention those that have been replaced already. Okay? So just take note of these drugs that are flashed on the screen, and then we'll encounter them again later on. Okay? So as I mentioned, your autacoids are endogenous molecules that do not belong to traditional autonomic groups, so they do not act specifically on cholinereceptors or adrenaline receptors, but they exert pharmacologic effects on muscles, synapses, and other tissues. So the important amine potapoids that we were mentioning earlier are histamine and serotonin. And as I said, yung mga drugs will be mentioned bind different to these receptors, or either they enhance or block the effects of these potapoids to produce their effects. Okay? So the other peptide and eicosanoid potapoids and other nitric oxide, for example, were actually discussed already, most likely in other lectures. Like for example, you're familiar with your angiotensin, bradykinin, so which cause vasodilation. Yung angiotensin naman is a vasoconstrictor. So all of these substances we have already encountered. Like for example, yung vasopressin, so baka na-discuss yan sa drugs acting on the kidneys. And then substance P as one of the slow neurotransmitters in the spinal cord for pain transmission. And then I think last semester you also had your NSAIDs, and we discussed your COX inhibitors, which actually are to be utilized ito eicosanoid and the arachidonic acid pathway, if I remember. So arachidonic acid is acted upon by two enzyme systems, your cyclooxygenase and lipoxygenase. So cyclooxygenase, it produces your prostaglandins, prostacyclins, carboxylates, tapos yung lipoxygenase na produce your leukotrienes. And if you remember, for anti-asthma drugs, so you have your leukotriene antagonists that are important as controllers of asthma. So these are the drugs we will be discussing in this lecture. There's histamine receptor blockers, serotonin receptor agonists and antagonists, drugs using obesity, ergotaminoids, and drugs using monoamines. So this is the concept map for this lecture. So just a brief review ng histamine. So remember that the precursor for histamine is histidine, and it's acted upon by your histidine, the enzyme histidine carboxylase, I forgot the enzyme, eventually forming histamine, and then it is stored in mast cells, enterochromatin cells, and certain neurons. Histamine is metabolized by monoamine oxidases and diamine oxidases. And if you remember, monoamine oxidases are located in the mitochondria. And the excess histamine production is measured by high levels of imidazolinic acid, which is observed in patients with systemic mastocytosis. Histamine has an important role in allergic reactions, particularly in IgE-mediated allergic reactions, when mast cells degranulate, that they can, and then we know that they contain histamine and other inflammatory mediators. And this contribute to the symptoms of seasonal rhinitis, urticaria, and angineurotic edema. Histamine has roles in the other organs, such as in the stomach. So, by binding to histamine 2 receptors, they stimulate gastric acid secretion. So, if you remember, sa GI drugs, diba, there are several mediators aside from histamine. So, you have your gastrin, or some acetylcholine, and then histamine is the mediators of gastric acid secretion. And it also functions as a neurotransmitter, particularly in the reticular activating system, so which we know in the brain is important for wakefulness. So later on we'll mention yung effects niya was sedation and having its hypnotic effect. You are also familiar, if you recall, in your lectures in toxicology about histamine toxicity. So not just as a part of the allergic actions, but also yung improperly stored fish which generate high histamine concentrations. So, if you remember, diba, it's actually, wala siya talagang histamine per se. but the histamine on the surface uh, of the skin and scales na certain types of fish, like tuna, yung mga ganyan types of fish. And actually, other improperly stored fish or maybe iba-iba sa atin kung sasabi allergic sila sa buko, may allergic sa certain types of fish. Although we cannot discount that there are actual patients with allergy to these types of food. Yung strophoid poisoning is actually yung conversion of histidine to histamine by bacteria on improperly stored fish. Kaya nag-form ng histamine. So, yung iba, hindi naman, obviously, kung kumakain tayo ng certain types of fish, parang nakakasing yung mga lalim natin because of the histamine was converted to histamine. Okay? So, there are several types of histamine receptors. So, there are actually 4 subtypes. And, however, yung may clinically relevant effects sa atin are those which are mediated by histamine 1 and histamine 2. Okay? This table shows to you the actually both histamine and serotonin receptors and the distribution in the body. We note that all of your histamine and serotonin receptors are G-protein coupled receptors, with the exception of the serotonin 3 subtype. So, if you look at this table, ang ligand-gated ion channel lang dyan is your serotonin 3 receptors, but all the rest are G-protein coupled receptors. So, if you remember, pag G-protein coupled, the main effect would be to activate an enzyme that would increase or decrease the second messengers. So, depending on the issue. So, let's just go now briefly to the different types of histamine receptors. So, histamine 1 has importance of muscle effects. The second messengers are your inositol-triphosphate, glycerol, and important activation of histamine receptors in mediating pain and urticaria of the skin, bronchoconstriction, vasodilation by nitric oxide release, and capillary endothelial cell contraction, which results into local edema. So yung nagkakaroon ng increased vascular permeability. It is also involved in allergic reactions as yung erythrocytosis. Yung histamine 2 naman, na-mention na natin kanina, mediates gastric acid secretion. It also has cardiac stimulant effects, although in the drugs that can affect histamine 2 receptor stimulation, wala masyado, hindi siya clinically relevant. Okay? So the mechanism ng activation of histamine 2 receptors is increased the cellular cytokine. Ito naman histamine 3, located siya in the presynaptic neuron for modulation or negative impact ng histaminergic neurotransmission and has been associated with appetite suppression. Yung histamine 4 naman is found also on leukocytes and is involved in chemotactic responses. But as I mentioned earlier, ang main relevant na effects are those which are mediated by histamine 1 and histamine 2 receptors. So just look at this figure, pinapakita lang natin dito yung summary ng main functions of the receptors. So clinically, wala tayong drugs that histamine in itself, walang drug na histamine. Kasi, and walang illegal use of therapeutic applications. Kasi mga important nga are those which block histamine 1 and histamine 2 receptors. Okay? So let's go to the histamine 1 blockers or antagonists. So, yung mga histamine 1 receptor antagonists natin are either pharmacologic antagonists or inverse agonists on the histamine 1 receptors. There are 2 main subgroups, the first generation agents and the second generation agents. So, ang main difference ng first sa second generation is Well, in terms of the chemical characteristics, the first generation agents are more live and soluble. So, kung more live and soluble, anong in-expect natin? Mas prominent yung kanila, pwede silang magkaroon ng mga CNS effects in contrast to the histamine, the second generation antihistamines, which are less liposoluble, and therefore yung effect nila is more on the allergic response. So the first generation agents are further subdivided into two groups. You have the older agents and the newer agents within the first generation. So the prototype of the antihistamines is diphenhydramine, so which I'm sure you've heard already. Is commonly used in managing allergic reactions, but is also used for its sedating and hypnotic effects. Okay? So there are other examples like diphenhydramine, doxylamine, and promethazine. These drugs are highly sedating. So when we say a drug is highly sedating, usually we interchange the terms conceptually na pag sedating nakakaantok, di ba? Pero technically, it's going to be strict terms. A sedative drug is a drug that addresses anxiety. Okay? So, a sedative drug is an anxiolytic drug, while a hypnotic drug is a drug that induces and maintains sleep. So in the next few weeks, you have your lecture on sedative hypnotic drugs, such as benzodiazepines, barbiturates, and alcohols. So just take note that these are two different things. Okay? So pag sinabi natin na sedating, nakaka-relieve na anxiety. Pag sinabi natin na hypnotic, yun yung nakaka-antok. But usually, ginagamit natin siya functionally na parang interchangeable. Also note that they have significant autonomic receptor blocking effects. So both on the muscarinic receptor and also on the alpha adrenergic receptors. So later on, we'll mention the effects or the side effects that can be associated with these drugs. Then you have the newer subgroups that are chlorpheniramine and cyclizine, which are relatively less sedating but still have sedative effects, pero minimal autonomic effects. Okay? So, nakaka-antok pa rin siya, but not as much as the first generation agent. So, for sure, all of you have taken Decogen at least once in your life. So, yung Decogen, diba, that's paracetamol, chlorpheniramine acid, and your phenylephrine. So, yung chlorpheniramine doon is the antihistaminic component. Kaya yung no-drowse Decogen, wala siya ng chlorpheniramine. So, paracetamol na siya at saka phenylephrine. Okay? And then, we also have the second generation agents. So, like your cetirizine, ivosicurizine, fexofenadine, loratadine. So, yan yung mga less sedating because of their poor CNS penetration. And also minimal to no autonomic effects. Also note that ang exciting difference between the first and the second generation agents is their half-life. So, in most cases, your first generation agents have a shorter half-life, therefore requiring multiple dosing per day, compared to your second generation agents that generally are given only once a day. Okay? So all of these are already active, although some can be administered every day. So as we said earlier, these drugs are either competitive antagonists or inverse agonists at histamine 1 receptors. So ano yung difference kapag competitive antagonist sa inverse? Pag competitive, pinaprevent na yung pagpahin ng histamine. But the effects of the cell is parang wala lang nakapahid na mediator. So it remains in the constitutive state. In contrast to inverse agonists. So pag inverse, the key term is they produce opposite effects. So, pagka competitive para lang baseline levels, so pagka inverse, opposite yung effect niya. Okay? So, they have no effect on histamine release from the storage sites. So, they are better and they are more effective if they are administered before histamine release in order to reduce the allergic response. So, kaya yung mga iba, diba, mga may allergy sa seafood, yung mga ginagawa nila, bago sila mag-buffet, mag-aano muna sila, hindi muna sila anti-histamine before. So, para pagka nabibig sila ng histamine, kailangan pa nilang mas maraming histamine para ma-displace yung antihistamine na nakabind sa receptors. Kasi baseline naman wala nakabind na histamine sa receptors. So that's what some do. Kaya lang it's a risk kasi you don't know the extent of the histamine release and the extent of the allergic reaction that you may have. Okay? So, usually yung mga nakakantok talaga, yung mga inverse agonists na first generation. So, yung prototype na ng Stephen. So, what are the additional effects? Pagka nag-bind sila sa mga other receptors, of course, they have muscarinic receptor blockade, so you can have anticholinergic effects. So, ano yung mga manifestations pagka anticholinergic? Yung naalala niyo yung mga blind as a bat, mata as a hatter, dry as a bone, red as a tea. So yun yung mga ano, so decreased distributions, blurred vision, pwede magkaroon ng mga CNS disturbance because of the antimuscarinic effects. Pagka alpha adrenoreceptor blockade naman, pwede may potential for orthostatic hypotension. And then some can also bind to serotonin receptors and your cycloheptadine, which may be important for example, yung mga certain carcinoid tumors that can release excess serotonin. So these antihistamines are given primarily for the serotonin blocking effect. So we'll mention those drugs later on. I mentioned already the sedating effect, which is common to first generation agents, and the primary mechanism is due to the histamine receptor blockade on the reticular activating system. Secondarily, the muscarinic receptor blockade can cause cognitive impairment and drowsiness, but this is a less prominent mechanism of the toxicity. So it's more on the blockade ng histamine receptor sa reticular activating system. Some drugs are used in the management of motion sickness. So yung mga diphenhydramine, promethazine, yung mga imihapnitin, meclizine, or monamin for kung kayo ay travel. So that's also used for motion sickness. Tapos, isip may vertigo dito. Some of you may have taken betahistin or yung SERP, so which is used for the management of vertigo. So these are also antihistamines. They can also have local anesthetic effects. So aside from, so what are the clinical use? So we mentioned already allergic reactions, like your immediate type na allergies. They have limited use in asthma. If you remember sa asthma, ano yung mga ginagamit natin, mga inhibitors ng mast cell determination and tungkol receptor antagonists. Other uses for motion sickness, chemotherapy induced vomiting, so yung diphenhydramine is often used, and in morning sickness. Yung doxylamine here is the antihistamine given in pyridoxine. They are used also as hypnotics, pero hindi siya talaga yung, kumbaga, hindi siya mag-cause ng dependency. So it's not advised. Kung meron kayong problems with sleeping, so kung pag-intake man ng kung may mga sleeping disorders, the first recommendation is of course more on fixing your sleep hygiene, so which is non-pharmacology. So, huwag uminom ng kape, ng tea, huwag mag-exercise, ng mga 3 or 4 hours bago may iinit sa tulog. Ano pa ba? Kapag ikaw huwag mo na gumamit ng gadgets, kasi yung light causes your, i-inhibit yung release ng melatonin natin. So all of these things. Pero kung i-manage yung ginagawa mo na lahat, you can give pharmacology management for patients with insomnia. Kaya lang, itong mga over-the-counter na sleep aids, hindi siya talaga i-recommend. So parang gusto natin is to address first the their environment. And then a lot of times, patients with sleep disorders, meron siyang mga underlying psychiatric or psychological issues. So which also can be addressed. Okay? So what are the adverse effects? So common syempre siya sa mga first generation agents, yung mga sleep-sedating effect, antimuscarinic effects, and the alpha-adrenal receptor block effect. So which are just extensions of their primary effects. In terms of drug interactions, we should avoid drugs that have additive CNS depressant effects. So evaluation is given benzodiazepines or takes alcohol, pwedeng enhance yung sedative effects. Certain azole antifungals and CYP3A inhibitors can raise the plasma levels of two important second-generation agents, itong astelizole and terfenadine. Although, actually, hindi ko lang ito nakikita masyado na ginagamit ngayon, yung dalawang drugs na ito. But we have been associated with increased risks of arrhythmias, particularly persistent arrhythmias, when given with azole antifungals, particularly ketoconazole and CYP3A4 inhibitors. So, may other withdrawal rin sa mark. So, this table just summarizes the characteristics ng first generation antihistamines and your second generation antihistamines and some of their examples. Okay? So, the next group of drugs are the histamine 2 blockers. So, as I said, this is really just a review for you. Tama, di ba? Yan siya yung drugs na natin. So, ang prototype natin sa histamine 2 blocker, cimetidine. So, cimetidine is the prototype na histamine 2 receptor blocker. Bakit siya mas effective than the antacids? Ano bang difference ng antacids? Antacids merely neutralize gastric acid. Pero your histamine 2 blockers block one of the receptors that can stimulate gastric acid secretion. Pero syempre, ano yung mas effective sa histamine 2 blockers? Your PPIs or your proton pump inhibitors. Kasi, ang proton pump inhibitors inhibit the final common pathway ng release ng gastric acid, which is your hydrogen, potassium, ATPase pump. In contrast, ito, histamine receptor blockade lang. So, pwede pang mag-stimulate via the muscarinic receptors and via gastrin. Pero, these were the first group of drugs that actually revolutionized the treatment ng acid-peptic disease. Kasi they were able to reduce gastric acid secretion. Hindi mo naman pwedeng inhibit yung muscarinic receptors in the body kasi mangyayari kung katawan naman affected. So, ito yung nag-develop. So, actually, hanggang ngayon naman, meron pa rin naman ibang mga, while the PPIs have surpassed histamine 2 blockers in terms of efficacy, they can still be used as adjuncts in the management of peptic services. So these are this bind to your histamine 2 receptors as pharmacology of peptic antagonists. Yung isa pang reason ng better efficacy ng PPIs is what? paano ba siya nagbabind sa hydrogen potassium ATPase? Reversible or irreversible? Yung mga BPIs. Irreversible. Irreversible. Kaya mas matagal yung duration action nila aside from the fact na they inhibit the final common pathway. So, mentioned kanina, di ba, yung cardiac effects and immune cells are also mediated by histamine E, pero when these are blocking clinically relevant antibiotics. So, ito mga next slides naman are just some examples of acid peptic diseases. So, I won't go so much into the details kasi lecture na ito sa inyo. So, record lang natin yung characteristics ng cimetidine, which is the prototype. Hindi na nga ito available ngayon eh. So, this is again for academic purposes. So, yung kanilang cytochrome-P450 inhibitory effect, at the same time, yung kanilang anti-androgenic effects due to the reduction of the metabolism of the inactive testosterone to active testosterone. Do you want to have a break? Let's have a short break before we proceed with the story.
Gusto mo silipan doon? Wala lang sa...
Saan ka tayo? Wala na ba?
Naghahanap din ako ng scratch pin.
Wait lang eh. Ay, parang ano na lang siya doon. Ay, sige.
Alright, so let's continue. So we'll discuss serotonin and the agonists related to serotonin. So again, we recall briefly yung synthesis and metabolism of serotonin. So we know that the precursor of serotonin is tryptophan, and then serotonin is stored in vesicles, in enterochromaffin cells, in CNS neurons, and also in the enteric nervous system. So we can predict that it has effects on the CNS and also in the gastrointestinal tract. So it's metabolized by monoamine oxidase, particularly monoamine oxidase A. And excess production, as noted in carcinoid tumors or carcinoid syndromes, can be detected by measuring the 5-HIAA, which is the serotonin metabolite. Serotonin has a physiologic role in the CNS as a neurotransmitter and also in the enteric nervous system. So it modulates gastrointestinal activity. It is also stored in platelets and is only minimally synthesized sa platelets. The termination of action of serotonin is via the uptake of the serotonin back into the presynaptic neurons. So, this table again summarizes the receptor subtypes, the signaling mechanisms, the organ distribution, and their effects. But maybe we can focus more on the clinically relevant drugs when trying to the specific receptor subtypes. Some of these drugs we'll be discussing in the next lectures, while some of these we have already discussed before. So, itong buspirone and ipsapirone, which are serotonin 1A partial agonists. So they actually are will be discussed when you will have your lecture on sedative hypnotics. So it's used in the management of anxiety. Tapos yung ano naman, mga triptans, which bind to the serotonin 1D, we'll discuss it here as one of the drugs used in the management of migraine. Similarly, lorcaserin, which binds to serotonin 2C, was one of the first drugs that were used to manage obesity, but has already been brought on the market. So we'll mention the cost later on. And then, yung mga drugs that act on the serotonin 2A or 2C receptors, such as ketanserin. I think ketanserin was mentioned briefly sa antihypertensives, but we don't use that as much. Methylsergide. So we'll mention later on, siguro dito sa section na to, yung mga nagbabayad sa serotonin, into yung methylsergide. Kasi yung trazodone is an antidepressant, which will be discussed in a later lecture. And then risperidone is one of the antipsychotic agents, which will be discussed in another lecture. And then, for sure, I hope you remember your ondansetron and the other drugs of ensitron. These are your serotonin 3 antagonists. And if you remember, ito lang yung serotonin receptor that is a ligand-gated ion channel. It's used in the prevention of chemotherapy-induced cognitive. And then, ito rin mga serotonin 4, like your cisapride, mosapride. So, we discussed this in GI drugs as prokinetic agents. So, we'll just mention briefly, I think mas important na alam natin yung kasi I don't expect you to memorize all of the receptors sometimes. Pero ang importante, yung mga drugs, tapos yung mga drugs na yun, alam nyo kung saan receptors sila nagpapayag. Yun lang naman yung importante sa exam. So, but if you look at this, when you stimulate it, some of the drug, it depends yan sa receptor subtype whether it causes inhibition or excitation of the receptors. So, I'll skip itong mga parts na lang na ito ng mga receptor and effects. But just take note that yung kanilang subtype, okay? Tsaka yung later on, yung drug kung saan nagpapansin. Madali naman siyang makalala. So what are the drugs with important clinical uses? So yung mga serotonin 1B and 1B agonists, such as the triptans, these are used as one of the first-line agents in the management of migraine headache because they can cause vasoconstriction. There is another subtype, yung 1F agonist, which yung drug that binds with selectively is your lasmiditan. So, later on, we'll mention this drug is actually safer in the management of migraine because yung effect is more on the cerebral vessels. Yung mga triptans kasi, medyo mas systemic yung effect niya on vasoconstriction. So, one of the important things that should be monitored is in terms of angina because it can cause coronary artery vasospasm. So, yun yung problem with the sumatriptan. So, yung lasmiditan, yung kanyang benefit is it has less vasoconstriction peripherally, particularly sa cardiovascular system. Tapos, you also have, as I mentioned, yung lorcaserin, which is a serotonin 2C agonist, which was originally given for weight loss. However, there was noted to be an increased risk of certain cancers. So, na-withdraw na sa market. Several other drugs were developed in the management of obesity, like fenfluramine and dexfenfluramine. But this was noted to cause pulmonary hypertension and cardiac valve damage. So, hindi na din yan masyadong ginagamit ngayon. Currently, fenfluramine is restricted in the management of Dravet syndrome, which is a kind of seizure disorder. But pharmacologically, ang mechanism niya is by causing release of serotonin inhibiting the SERT. So it will prolong the action of serotonin. There was a drug before which is a combination of fenfluramine and phentermine, pero na-banded siya due to its toxicity. Phentermine is an amphetamine-based anorexic, so it also reduces appetite. But since amphetamine-based siya, so if you recall, amphetamine causes displacement of catecholamines from the vesicles in the noradrenergic and dopaminergic neurons. So, pag na-displace yun, nai-release siya. So, may enhance yung mga effects ng norepinephrine and dopamine. Also in the central nervous system in the periphery. So, pwede magkaroon ng excessive CNS stimulation, paranoia, cardiac effects such as arrhythmias and hypertension. So, kaya naging prone rin yan sa market. And then we have your serotonin 4 partial agonists, such as your tegaserol. Pero yung available natin ngayon would be your mosapride, remember, which is used for as a prokinetic agent. So, useful for GERD and patients with lupus. Tapos yung mga SSRIs natin, mag-discuss naman yan sa section on antidepressants. Okay? When there is excess serotonin in the body, so it can cause serotonin syndrome, which is an example of a hyperthermic syndrome. There are 3 types of hyperthermic syndromes. You have serotonin syndrome, neuroleptic malignant syndrome, and malignant hyperthermia. So, itong serotonin syndrome can occur with serotonin agonist drugs, either alone, but usually if they are given in combination, or kapag nagkaroon ka ng mga drug interactions with other drugs or supplements that also enhance serotonin. So this is serotonin syndrome is manifested as high temperatures, skeletal muscle contraction, and other cardiovascular abnormalities. And this can be fatal. Several drugs, such as your SSRIs, MAO inhibitors, linezolid, which is an anti-infective agent. So this table shows the drugs that are associated with serotonin syndrome, but usually occur or the risk is increased in combination sila doon. So, like for example, for antidepressants, nire-recommend yan na isang antidepressant lang para hindi dalawa. Or kung dadagdag ba, dapat ibang mechanism of action, hindi nag-enhance ng serotonin. Certain supplements like St. John's wort and ginseng can also increase serotonin levels. So how is this managed? You can give benzodiazepines, which is an anticonvulsant sedative hypnotic. Muscle paralysis, so there are drugs that can be given as skeletal muscle relaxants. Mechanical ventilation. And you can consider also blockade with cyproheptadine or chlorpromazine. Yung cyproheptadine is actually an ergot alkaloid. Here we'll classify them kasama ng mga antihistamines, pero may serotonin blocking effect siya. While chlorpromazine is an anti-psychotic agent, first generation antipsychotic, which binds primarily to dopamine receptors as a blocker, but can also block serotonin receptors. Okay, so we'll discuss yun naman yung chlorpromazine when you already used your lecture on antipsychotic agents. Okay, so take note of the management for serotonin syndrome. Okay? So what are examples naman ng mga serotonin antagonists? So yung mga serotonin 2 blockers such as ketanserin, phenoxybenzamine, and cyproheptadine. Please take note that itong mga serotonin 2 blockers na to, hindi lang siya nagpa-block. May mga multiple other receptors that they can also block. While yung serotonin 3 blockers naman, selective sila. So they don't bind to other receptors. Tapos yung mga ergot alkaloids naman, they are partial agonists with some antagonist effects at the serotonin and again other receptors. So their clinical use is also dependent on the other receptors that they block. Okay? So we'll mention these later on. Dito muna tayo sa mga serotonin 2 blockers. So we have ketanserin and cyproheptadine. But if you look at this slide, ketanserin also additionally blocks alpha receptors, and while cyproheptadine also blocks histamine 1 receptors. Kaya why not we may have seen cyproheptadine sa antihistamines because it has histamine 1 blocking. Ketanserin, you may have encountered this in your lecture on antihypertensives because the alpha-1 blockade causes vasodilation, which can cause a reduction in blood pressure. Yung phenoxybenzamine is an irreversible blocker of serotonin 2 receptors, but you may have also encountered phenoxybenzamine sa sympathic drugs, as a sympatholytic agent in the management of what? What do you remember? Anong ginagamit? Saan ginagamit ang phenoxybenzamine? Pheochromocytoma. It's used in the long-term management of pheochromocytoma, primarily because of its irreversible alpha-1 receptor blockade. So, try to recall, sana nakaalala niyo pa sila, yung mga drugs niyo for pheochromocytoma, yung phentolamine, at phenoxybenzamine. So, ang difference ng phentolamine is reversible. Yung phenoxybenzamine is irreversible yung blockade niya sa alpha-1 receptors. Tapos yung serotonin 3 naman, na-discuss nyo na to, so prevention ng chemotherapy-induced vomiting, and also in diarrhea predominant na irritable bowel syndrome, particularly for allocetrol. So ito yung mga clinical uses niya. So I think we mentioned this already. Like etancillin, cyproheptadine, phenoxybenzamine, and then the serotonin 3 blockers. So yeah, that's what I mentioned. Yung allocetrol for diarrhea, predominant irritable bowel syndrome, and as I said, for prevention ng chemotherapy-induced vomiting. Ano bang naalala niyo mga binibigay natin for chemotherapy-induced vomiting? O review natin ng konti. Aside from your serotonin 3 blockers, kunyari complex. Ano bang binibigay natin aside from ondansetron and dolasetron? Chemotherapy-induced vomiting. Yung diphenhydramine, di ba, na-mention natin, pwede yung may additive effect. One corticosteroid is given to reduce chemotherapy-induced vomiting or vomiting per se. Corticosteroid, dexamethasone. Yan. Ano pa yung nag-block na neurokinin receptors? It also prevents chemotherapy-induced vomiting. Simula sa letter A. Aprepitant. Alala niyo ba yun? Yung aprepitant is the neurokinin. So kapag ka, for example, you will have a patient for chemotherapy. Ano ba yung mga binibigay natin for a patient na chemotherapy? Of course, kasi kung chemotherapy agent, kailangan bibigay tayo ng anti-emetic agent. Tapos, ano pa yung mga discuss nyo last weeks ago? Ano pa yung parang tumaas yung mga WBC ng patient? Yung mga colon-stimulating factors, like your phenoprastin. So, when you look at the patient, you will see that this patient will have multiple drugs, not just for the primary indication, but also yung mga supporting medications. So, alalahanin natin yung mga drugs na ito na kailangan ng pasyente natin. So what are the adverse effects are usually related as an extension of their primary effects. So hypertension, for your alpha-1 blockade, histamine 1 blockade, and then for serotonin T receptors, pag na-block sila, they can cause QRS and QTC prolongation, again increasing the risk for dorsal arthritis. And then for allocetrol, can cause significant constipation and ischemic colitis. So, you mentioned kanina yung lorcaserin, at saka yung phentermine, at saka yung fenfluramine. So, ito yung mga drugs that hindi siya masyadong safe, di ba? So, parang kaya tayo papayatin kasi parang yung mga drugs laging may kapalit. So, ito naman mga next drugs na to, you may have already been hearing about them in social media. And we know that obesity must be treated because it's associated with various risks. Pero, and actually, yung mga ano natin, for understanding obesity as a disease rather than just a problem of poor willpower is important in actually addressing the risks associated with obesity. So there are several mechanisms that are involved in appetite and weight control, involving insulin receptors, exotic receptors, so that's why several drugs were mentioned earlier. And actually, it was shown in other drugs, like yung mga older anti-psychotic drugs natin, that certain drugs can also increase appetite and cause weight gain. So parang nakikita natin that there are CNS mechanisms in obesity. This is just to show you the history of the FDA-approved weight loss drugs. So in 1999, beta kayo, wala pa. So, 29 first year college at the time. So yan, mabas yung Xenical, which is a drug that inhibits binding of inhibits absorption ng fat. So it binds the fat. Pero syempre, pag exit mo yung fat, ano yung expect natin? Steatoria. So parang after nila kumain, mag-gym sila agad. So hindi siya magandang feeling. Or lagi nagkakaroon ng stain sa underwear kasi nagkakaroon ng steatoria. Tapos you mentioned nga yung phentermine, and then topiramate is an anticonvulsant. Bupropion is a drug for actually for reduction ng for smoking or nicotine addiction. Naltrexone is given for opioid addiction to reduce craving. So you'll see, mayroon siyang CNS component talaga in terms of the drugs that were given. Kaya lang, pinirobing drugs adverse effect associated with them. In 2014, your liraglutide was developed. And actually, yung semaglutide also belong in the same drug class. Yung semaglutide, which is ozempic, di ba? That's also ozempic. And then, yung available na ngayon is tirzepatide. So actually, since 2023, they were approved already in the US, pero kaka-launch lang yan sa Pilipinas few months ago lang. So, pero available na siya in other countries. So maybe these drugs, I'm sure, they have been mentioned to you in the lecture sa anti-EM. I think by Dr. Rivera. Mga anti-EM drugs. They are GLP-1 agonists and like semaglutide, and they primarily modulate insulin and glucose secretion and reduce or they promote the feeling of fullness by decreasing appetite and slowing gastric emptying. So they are administered subcutaneously once a week. Tapos, although ang mga complaint ng mga pasyente is, well, in most patients they work. Yan lang ang problem. Pagka yung iba parang they feel nauseous all the time. So yung iba parang parang laging nasusuka sila. Parang kahit na konti lang kinain nila. So it's also an uncomfortable feeling for some. Tapos, since it slows down gastric emptying, it can worsen GERD symptoms. O kunyari, ang pasyente meron na gasoparesis as a complication of diabetes, so it can worsen those symptoms kasi pinapaslow daw yung gastric emptying. So yung iba, parang lagi sila feeling nauseous kahit na wala pa silang kinakain. So this can be a problem also. And if you have history of GERD, so it can worsen GERD symptoms. So yung difference ng tirzepatide sa mga GLP-1 agonist is it has an additional mechanism of action as a GIP receptor inhibitor. So meron siyang glucose-dependent insulin-monoamic peptide receptor. So meaning, as a GIP receptor, yung pag ina-activate niyan, nagkakaroon ng glucose-dependent insulin release. in the pancreas. So, parang kung gaano kadami yung glucose mo, minamatch yung insulin na nare-release from the pancreas. Okay? So, ito lang yung mga differences nila. Just to say that itong table na ito kasi, yung approval niya, if you look at it, para siya, indication niya is for diabetes primarily. Meron yung mga bagong drugs na yun, kahit na wala pang diabetes, pwede na siyang ibigay. Kung obese yung patient. Ang problema, pag hindi ka naman obese, pero nag-take ka ng drug, di ba? Kaya diba sa US na gusto yung mga Ozempic face kasi they take it or they get it, kahit na hindi naman siya ibigay. Okay? So these are just some examples of combinations of agents for the management of obesity. You can also try this one too, Cyclogel. So, pero ano naman yan, it's for parang similar to Cilu. So, it absorbs water. So, nagkakaroon parang gel. So, it helps to feel full. It can also absorb water. There's more practical sa tayo. Pero kailangan, yung pa ng water. Kasi pag hindi ng water, constantly ng tayo. Kaya na-important. So, medyo ko na rito na sa market dahil sa pulmonary infarction. But also non-pharmacologic interventions which can be, you will encounter this when you go to surgery. So, these are just a summary of your anti-obesity agents and their So let's go to your ergot alkaloids. So, sabi ko kanina, iba yung history ng discovery ng ergot alkaloids is actually is produced from the fungi that infested your wet and or spoiled barley or rye in the Middle Ages. Tapos, it's responsible for the historical epidemics of what was known eventually as St. Anthony's fire or ergotism. Kasi there was ischemia, gluttony, convulsions, and well, it was attributed to St. Anthony's, parang doon ka lumang dadasal para umaling ka. Parang yung tinawag sa kanya. So at least 20 naturally occurring ergot alkaloids have been discovered, and only a few of them are used therapeutically. So mechanism, they are partial agonists at alpha adrenaline receptors and serotonin receptors, and they are potent agonists at the dopamine receptors. This is the primary mechanism. So pag partial agonist siya, pwede maging mixed effect niya. Diba? Pag partial agonist, it can function as an agonist kapag mataas yung mediator na present. Pero pagka mababa siya, it functions as an agonist. So you will see in the next table, yung partial agonist effect can either be as an agonist or antagonist depending on the drug and the issue. So these are the 4 important ergot alkaloids that are, well, you first read is still clinically used, but actually, among these, ang ginagamit na lang natin is bromocriptine. Pero it's more for its dopamine receptor agonist effect. But while the other drugs historically were given for many other indications, pero napalitan na siya ng ibang mga drugs. So please note na lang yung mga effects on the different receptors. So take note of this table, whether it is agonist or antagonist. So ang point dito, we can actually infer yung kanyang clinical use based on the receptor that they have a strong affinity to. Okay? So if we look at this, yung bromocriptine, while it has antagonist effects sa alpha receptors and serotonin receptors, ang primary effect niya is on the dopamine 2 receptors, primarily in the central nervous system. While if you look at ergonovine and ergotamine, sa serotonin, nagbavari yung effect niya. Ergonovine, strong agonist siya, Pero ergotamine, agonist siya, pero weak lang kasi partial agonist yung effect niya. While yung ergotamine naman, on the dopamine is inhibitory yung kanyang effect. If you look at the uterine smooth muscle effect, relatively most of them have an agonist effect on the uterine smooth muscles to cause contractions. So we can infer, for example, pag nag-contract ang uterus, pagka pregnant ang patient, ano pwede mangyari? Pwede magkaroon ng premature or preterm labor or miscarriage. But if used in the postpartum period, uterine contraction is important in relieving postpartum bleeding. So, yun yung kanyang isa sa mga important na historical causes. Okay? So, let's look at the different drugs and their effects on the different organs. So, sa blood vessels, yung ergotamine, so it causes vasoconstriction primarily. So, the prolonged alpha-adrenaline receptor-mediated vasoconstriction, yung ergotamine, yung alpha niya, adrenaline receptor, is agonistic effect niya. So, it can cause alpha-mediated vasoconstriction. So, it can cause ischemic gangrene of the limbs and the bowel. And it may cause epinephrine reversal by blocking alpha-agonist effects ng mga sympathomimetic agents. So, sabi natin kanina, pagka mababa yung, mababa yung alpha, yung catecholamines natin, it can cause agonist effect. Pero pagka mataas siya, it can have antagonist effects as well. If you remember the concept of epinephrine reversal, sa sympathy drugs, ano bang effect normally ng epinephrine sa blood vessels? Vasoconstriction, tataas dapat ang blood pressure ng patient. Tapos, so pagka ang patient ay mayroong isang nating ng alpha blocker, ano mangyayari? Mabablock niya yung alpha-mediated na effect on the blood vessels. Mag-iibabaw yung beta-mediated effects, which is vasodilation. So, pwede magkaroon ng reduction in blood pressure. So, note that this occurs only pagka may combination. So, pagka ang epinephrine ay binigay sa isang pasyente na may alpha blocker. Okay? So, the epinephrine reversal happens only if a patient is taking a drug that is a strong alpha-1 blocker. Kasi, mangigibabaw yung beta-mediated effects. Okay? So, ano ba yung mga drugs na may alpha blocking effect? So, aside from this one, ano ba mga ibang drugs na alala nyo na may alpha blocking effect? Kanina, ano mga na-lecture kanina sa first part ng lecture? Yung mga first generation antihistamines. So, di ba, they have also an alpha blocking effect. So, isang pasyente, naka-diphenhydramine, tapos binigyan mo ng epinephrine, you can expect an epinephrine reversal effect. Or, actually, yung mga typical antipsychotics natin, ito na yung siya, they can also block alpha receptors. So, pwede magkaroon ng epinephrine reversal. So, my point is, when you see this, you try to coordinate it also with other drugs that will be lectured in the future. Okay? Next, so uterus naman, so can cause ergonomine, can cause uterine contractions. So they are sufficient to cause abortion and miscarriage in pregnancy. In the brain, LSD can cause hallucinations by stimulating the serotonin 2A receptors. But the dopamine receptor agonism in the brain can inhibit prolactin secretion. So this is that's why for bromocriptine and pergolide, which has strong dopamine to antagonist effects, ang primary na use niya is for patients with hyperprolactinemia. Because since dopamine inhibits prolactin secretion, so this would reduce prolactin secretion. So, for example, this is a pharmacologic option in the treatment of prolactinomas, in order to reduce prolactin secretion. So, yung mga clinical uses niya, actually, you mentioned this, yung mga ergotamines were historically used for migraine headaches kasi it causes vasoconstriction. Pero yun nga, it is systemic. Kaya develop ng mga alternatives such as your triptans and the other migraine drugs. Tapos yung mga ergotamine naman, they were used in the management of postpartum healing. Pero contraindicated sila bago pa na-deliver yung placenta. Kasi pwede ma-stop yung placenta sa loob ng uterus. Then as I mentioned, they are used in the management itong mga bromocriptine and carbertomate to reduce prolactin secretion in hyperprolactinemia and prolactin tumors, and are used also off-labelly to treat acromegaly. Kasi may effect din siya on the growth hormone and I think somatostatin. Pero may ibang mga drugs naman, like yung mga anti-growth hormone drugs that can be used in the treatment of acromegaly and gigantism. Pero kasi parang may effects, it has an effects on the, usually kasi acromegaly may tumor yan. So parang in terms of the secretion ng growth hormone, may mga negative feedback na mechanisms na na-utilize by giving bromocriptine. And then currently also Parkinson's disease, ginagamit din siya as an adjunct, pero may ibang mga bagong drugs na rin even though nagkakaroon. What is the main problem in Parkinson's disease? Diba you have degeneration of the dopaminergic neurons, particularly in the substantia nigra. So, itong mga drugs that can bind and stimulate dopamine receptors, they can reduce or they can improve the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. So, ano yung mga vascular effects niya? So, severe vasoconstriction, like ischemia, gangrene, and as I said, coronary artery vasospasm. So, this can be problematic in patients with known coronary artery disease. The long-term use associated with fibroplasia. So, metal cervical pulmonary fibrosis, ergotamine metabolic fibrosis, etc. So, tapos sa bromocriptine naman, at saka very sa heart naman. So, kaya very limited yung use nito mga drugs. Antidote for vasoconstriction is nandrolone. So, if you remember, resistant oxide. Then they can also have gastrointestinal effects. Because of fibroplasia, ergot alkaloids are generally avoided for long-term use. So alternative migraine prophylaxis, such as beta blockers, CGRP inhibitors, and your dopamine agonists with desregulading risks are preferred whenever possible. So let's go. Alam natin the return effects, contraction, and CNS effects common with LSD. Methylcertide was also formerly used as an LSD substitute. Ano na tayo matapos? Ito tayo sa last part. Mga drugs used in migraine. So, there are various mechanisms na nagkakos ng migraine. So, one of the more recently studied mechanisms is due to the calcitonin-gene-related peptide. So, which is vasodilator peptide neurotransmitter released from the geminal nerve fibers during migraine attacks. So, several drugs have been developed to address this particular mechanism of action. So, meron tayo mga monoclonal antibodies. So, basta may MAB, monoclonal antibody siya. Pero yung mga CGRP na monoclonal antibodies, dalawang classes din siya. So, those which bind the CGRP receptors and block activation, and those which bind CGRP itself. So, itong mga iba, yung erenumab is more of competitive antagonist, while the fremanezumab and galtazumab, these are chemical antagonists because they bind CGRP itself. So, these drugs are useful as prophylaxis. They prevent the onset, they prevent migraine. Pero, mabagal yung kanilang onset of action. It's given as a continuous injection, tapos long duration of action. So itong mga drugs na ito, monoclonal antibodies for prophylaxis. Pero meron natin mga oral CGRP antagonists. So then you broke it man and you make it man, which can be useful for acute migraine. So, pero there are yung mga bagong drugs, medyo mas mahal pa sila. So ano ba yung mga management natin for acute migraine? Pwede tayo, of course, NSAIDs can still be given. Sometimes even opioids. Pero to address the cerebral vasodilation that occurs in migraine, yung mga triptans are usually the first line agents in acute migraine treatment. So yung mga sumatriptan, yung mga first line agents. So they cause cranial vasoconstriction. Pero yung mga CGRP antagonists natin, they actually do not cause vasoconstriction. So they are safer options for patients with cardiovascular disease who might be at risk from the adverse effect of treatments. And then also another safer option is the lasmiditan, which already mentioned earlier, with also better cardiovascular safety. So minimal affinity to other serotonin receptors and autonomic effects. So less than yung kanyang coronary artery vasospastic na effects. So again, monoclonal antibodies are generally used for prophylaxis, while the oral agents are used for acute migraine with improved safety profiles. There are various other mechanisms aside from CGRP and migraine and serotonin. So, yung mga ibang mga mechanisms such as the sa beta receptors, so yung mga beta blockers din that are also useful in the prevention of migraine, but this is more for prophylaxis. So your cortical spreading depression, then the antidepressants can also be used for preventing migraine headaches. Your antidepressants and your botulinum toxin can also be used in preventing migraine. So this last slide just give you the pathophysiological basis and then show you the drugs that are given for them and whether differentiating whether they are used for acute migraine or prophylaxis. So for example, yung mga in general, so yung mga ano natin, triptans, gemans, and your NSAIDs. So yan yung, tapos yung mga lasmiditan. So yan yung for acute migraine. And then the rest of the other drugs are used for prevention of prophylaxis. Okay? So this table summarizes to you whether the drugs mentioned are for acute migraine management or for preventive or prophylaxis. So please take note in the exam. Siyempre, dapat kailan natin yung drug, alam natin yung sample, tapos alam natin whether it's for acute or chronic migraine. Tapos alam natin yung reason kung bakit hindi safe ang triptans and what are the alternatives for safe administration of drugs. Okay? If there are any questions, I think this is the last slide. The rest are just the drug summary slides. Okay. There are no more questions? No questions. So later, you have your post-lecture quiz 1:30. 1 o'clock. Wala naman kayo shifting. So 1 o'clock na lang. Para uwi na agad sa manong session. True or false na.